Life can never be the same when you hear that. Not ever. My name's Sarah and I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer stage 3B and early stage womb cancer 1A in 2019. Let's talk about sex. Can people with cancer have sex? Yes, very much so. And why not? It's an important part of our life and something that shouldn't be ignored. When you have a cancer diagnosis, it's important to find joy, and pleasure is one of those. Just because we have a diagnosis doesn't mean that we shouldn't be having sex. I do find it easy to talk about sex. Maybe I'm just comfortable with my sexuality. Maybe it's because I'm a gay woman. I am able to talk about sex in an open way with my partner. It's healthy to talk about sex. It should be more open and more of us should be talking about it. It's an important part of our lives. No matter of our age, whether we have a cancer diagnosis or not, we need to feel love and compassion and pleasure. I've seen comments on posts about why do you want to have sex after you've had cancer? Is it not enough that you're cured or you're in remission? And it's not enough. I've got to live with this for however long I've got left. And I want to be able to feel pleasure again. And I want help with that. What is cancer treatment like? Traumatizing. For me it was. I have 2 gynecological cancers. I had debulking surgery, which is 8.5 hours of surgery removing my omentum, my ovaries, my womb, my cervix, part of my vagina. I had a bowel resection because my tumour was so big it was stuck to my bowel. I had my appendix removed, and there was also 2 other smaller tumours that were found too. I was told before surgery that because of my weight there was a risk that I wouldn't make it through surgery, a surgery that I couldn't not have. It really affected me. It affected who I am. It affected my identity. I struggled just to know who I was. It doesn't just affect the organs it grows in. It affects everything. My mental health, my physical health, my sexual health. Your cervix controls the intensity of our orgasms, and losing that with my hysterectomy. As soon as I'd had surgery, my body was changed forever, and my pleasure was changed forever, without even being told about it. There was no conversation about whether I would lose the sensations and lose the ability to be able to enjoy sex. There wasn't even a conversation about the menopause that was going to be induced by my surgery. It was almost seen as like a side effect or an afterthought, really. Let's have another question. How does cancer affect sex? In many ways, cancer affects sex, and it can depend on the organs that your cancer grows in and the surgeries and the treatments that you've had done. But it also affects the way you feel about it mentally. The intimate relationship we have with ourselves can be changed because of cancer. Knowing that the parts of my body responsible for pleasure and for bringing life into the world developed cancer was hard psychologically, not just physically. We have our scars. I have a scar that runs from my boobs to my pubes, and that affects how we feel about ourselves. My cancer can't be cured, so I speak to my team every 3 months. If we have those conversations with our teams, then it's easier for us to have those conversations with our partners and loved ones. I still want to enjoy sex, but I get so far and then it's just a no. My body switches off. I've felt frustrated because I'm not able to achieve an orgasm, and no one really talks about that either. It's not really something women talk about, but for me it's important. Let's have another question. Where do I get support with cancer? That's a hard one. I struggled to begin with. You have to find support on your own, basically, I found. And it took a lot of guts, to be honest. I really did feel like I was alone in what I was dealing with. I found a community online, and I found other women that were struggling in the way I was. Finding somebody else that feels the same as you and is going through the same. It just it helps you feel like you're not on your own with it. There was no information about it. I had to ask my oncology team. When I did reach out for help, the help that I was given was very heteronormative. So the help around sex and pleasure was all to do with penetrative sex and not my type of sex. I felt like my cancer diagnosis affected my identity as a gay woman, and especially to do with sex as well. I was struggling with my mental health. I'd previously struggled with my mental health when I was younger, and my diagnosis triggered that poor mental health again. So I was really struggling with all parts of my life, and no one was really talking about the mental health part of it either. My treatment was very traumatic, and I needed some trauma therapy afterwards, which helped, and I feel a lot better for it, but it was a long, hard process. Everybody else looked like they were doing it better and coping better, and I was struggling. At times I felt suicidal with it. I was told that I should see 4 years at the age of 42. It has a massive impact. I was grateful that I got therapy, that I had therapy, and I feel better for it. It's helping me live with it. I did call Macmillan for help. I remember them helping me fill out my forms to help with my finances, which is the last thing you really want to be thinking about, but it's important. And so I was really grateful that they were able to help me navigate the benefit system, which is hard. I felt supported in doing that. I also got in touch with them when I was struggling with my mental health. I found a lump in my breast, and obviously that was scary given what I was going through. So I gave Macmillan a ring and spoke to somebody on the phone, and they were really helpful. They advised me to speak to my GP, and within 5 or 6 days I was having a mammogram and everything was okay. Just hearing someone on the other end of the phone explain, what I needed to do, it was a relief when I got the all clear, and I was grateful to Macmillan for doing that for me. Let's see what the next question is. Is cancer taboo? I think there are certain conversations within cancer that are taboo, conversations about our mental health and conversations about pleasure and intimacy. I was made to feel embarrassed about my body. I fully expect if you're in gynecology or healthcare for you to be able to use the right words for our bodies. You looking down at the floor or being embarrassed or saying it quietly. I struggled with the way that the nurses and some of the doctors would refer to the parts of my body. They would often use the words of like down there or between my legs, using another word for it. It does add a level of stigma and shame. Not even talking about sex was stigmatizing sex and wanting to feel pleasure as a woman. Everyone's entitled to feel pleasure. It really affects how you feel about yourself. Just so low, waking up every morning thinking, am I going to die today? Just because of everything that was said about my body and my cancer. We're supposed to feel grateful for the time we've been given, or for what our surgery or our treatment did, or being cured of cancer. I just don't feel like they're treating the whole person by leaving out these conversations and not talking about our mental health and not addressing our pleasure and intimacy. How do I ask my doctors about sex? It took me a while. It took me reaching out to other people and finding out that other people were struggling with the same things I was to actually be brave enough to broach it myself. It was never given as an option that, there's a clinic that you can go to if you struggle with pleasure and intimacy after your cancer treatment. It's hard enough to think about everything else, and then when you realise that something isn't working, but no one's told you that could happen, it's so isolating. And especially about sex, I suppose, because nobody talks about it. I really wish that I knew that this could happen to me. I think it would have been less traumatic for me. We need to be told what's going to happen to our bodies, regardless of whether it's uncomfortable for the person telling us. Do gay people get cancer? Cancer doesn't discriminate. Gay people get cancer, straight people get cancer, everyone can get cancer. We hear the statistics more and more that 1 in 2 people will suffer a cancer diagnosis in their lifetime. I didn't feel supported by my team. I didn't feel like they saw me for who I am. For the first 6 months of my treatment, they referred to me as a Mrs. and not a Miss. Everybody presumed that I was married and that I was married to a man. And even when I tried to advocate for myself and say, you know, can we not have the Mrs.? I'm a Miss, I'm a gay woman, I find it offensive. When you think someone's got a husband, there's all sorts of presumptions made that you've got support at home. And I was doing it on my own and struggling because I didn't see other people that were like me. I didn't see other queer people with cancer. It felt like I was just a number and not a person and not a human being. Our stories do need to be heard and seen. We all need to see somebody that looks like us or identifies like us in order for us not to feel like we're alone with this. I don't know if that's because I felt invisible because I'm gay and there was no representation. I think we need to see more diversity in the hospitals that we go to, or even in the forms or the questions that were asked. The whole presumption that I was straight and married and, you know, that losing my fertility was okay because I'm a gay woman and I obviously don't want kids because I don't have sex with men. I mean, there's just so old stereotypes and they just have no place in healthcare or cancer care, you know, cancer care and treatment. How do I feel normal after cancer? It depends what normal is to you, I suppose, but I got tired of being told life can get back to normal now because my life will never be the same again. I never asked to hear my prognosis. He asked me if I wanted to know and I remember shaking my head to say no, but my mum was with me and she shook her head and said yes. And then to hear, you know, the words should see 4 years just said like it was nothing. Life can never be the same when you hear that. Not ever. And not normal. Certainly not normal. But there are ways in which, you know, I can learn to live with this and learn to find joy. In order for me to find my pleasure and intimacy again, I was referred to the psychosexual therapist. There are ways and means out there to try and, you know, get back to having an active sex life. It's just about learning what's new for you and what's right for you now. For me, it's about being close, the physical intimacy rather than it just being sexual intimacy. Learning about each other again, I suppose. It's finding what's right for you, not what's normal for you. Introducing toys and different activities in the bedroom. It might not even be centered around the bedroom anymore. It could be that you just find joy in other places. But we need to be happy and we need to feel joy, and our pleasure and intimacy is a way of doing that. I just wish I was told at the beginning that this could happen to me. And that's why it's important that we talk about sex and cancer, because it does affect us. Even if the surgery and treatment isn't a gynecological or a prostate cancer, it affects the whole of us. It's about humanising the whole thing. Just having an open conversation, it doesn't feel like things are hidden, because hiding it away is just making it feel like it's shameful. And sex isn't about being shamed. It's about enjoying intimacy with yourself or with a partner. Why shouldn't we be talking about it? If you've enjoyed this video, then like, share and join the conversation in the comments.